Just recently, Tesla unveiled a new Model 3 and it came with a number of new and exciting features. The new Model 3 has a number of updated external stylings as well as many new interior changes like a new steering wheel, ambient LED lighting, and they added a new rear screen to allow people to access from the back of the car the climate controls and the media. Now this new car is just now starting to ship in Asia and Europe, and there's no word yet from Tesla when we will see this car in the USA. So if you're super excited about getting a new Model 3 or Model Y with a rear screen from Tesla, you're likely going to have to wait a while. There's good news for you, you don't need to wait. You can get this rear screen functionality today. In fact, there have been a number of aftermarket rear screen options available for quite some time on the Model 3 and the Model Y, and I've even looked at a number of them. And I will say that the early models of the rear screens had issues, but the technology is evolving quickly, and I have a brand new screen to show you that gets you about as close as you can get to duplicating the functions of this new rear screen in the refreshed Model 3 as you can get. And the new refresh screen from Tesla covers two basic functions from the rear of the car. First, climate controls, and second is media. And this screen from Hansho also does a good job of giving you this basic functionality. So let's compare them. Let's see how this screen from Hansho stacks up with the Tesla screen. And let's start with the climate controls. Here you can see the climate control screens look very similar. You can control the temperature and the blower speed from the back of the car, just like the Tesla screen. You can even enable the various modes like camp mode or dock mode right here from the back. From a secondary screen, you can control the seat heaters in the rear as well as the front. The refresh Model 3 screen can also adjust the position of the passenger seat, and this screen will allow you to do that too. And it can also even adjust the angle of the seat back, and that isn't something the Tesla screen allows you to do right now. Now, while these two screens are very similar, there are some differences, good and I'll just say not so good. This screen does have what they call a front seat massage function. And what it actually does is it inflates and deflates the lumbar support as well as change the position up and down. Now, it's kind of cool, but I wouldn't label it a massage. A light back stretch assist might be a more accurate name for it. And if your car has adjustable lumbar support on both sides of the car, this screen will allow you to control both of those. Now, one obvious drawback to this is that this screen is in the back, and you have to enable this feature from the back, which isn't practical unless you have someone in the back seat all the time. Now, the new Model 3 screen also allows you to direct the rear air to various positions in the back seat. This screen, you simply can't do that because it can't physically adjust the control of the air because that was done manually with some hand adjustments on the current design. Now, what this screen can do that its predecessors couldn't is it does a better job in taking space to direct that air toward you, because this screen obviously takes up more space than what was there before compared to older versions. And since we're talking about the air, this screen has something called an ion purification setting, and it's supposed to ionize and purify the air that's coming out the rear. I really don't know what it does or how effective it is, but it is claimed that they make as a feature. Finally, you can open the glove box from the back of the screen. I'm not really sure why you would need to open the glove box from the back, but you can do it. But it's also worth pointing out that if you have a PIN code on your glove box, pressing this button from the back screen will bypass that PIN. So aside from the new features that they added and the fact that you can't direct the airflow to the back, this screen actually does a decent job providing the same features found in the new Model 3 refresh. Now let's talk about the media. The refresh gives you access to controlling the sound in the car. You can do this too right from this screen. The refresh also gives back passengers access to some apps like YouTube, Netflix, Disney+, all the same apps that you get on the front screen. The rear screen does this too and more, but I'll get to that in a second. So if you stopped right here, I would say that this screen does a good job in giving you a very close refreshed Model 3 rear screen experience that you can install in your car today. However, I need to continue this video and talk about all of the other features that this screen has. And for the rest of this video, I would look at these new features like icing on a cake. Now, if you're only interested in eating the icing, this product may not be right for you. Now, to carry this analogy a little bit further, the icing on this cake of a product isn't always spread on evenly. It may taste strange in some places. Let me explain. At the heart of this screen is an Android 12 tablet. It has access to the Google Play Store and all of the apps that you can find on the Google Play Store, including media and games, which is pretty cool. You can hook up a Bluetooth or wired game controller, and you can connect a Bluetooth speaker or use the built-in speakers if you want. Furthermore, if you want to hook up your phone to use it for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto from the back, you can do that too. Those all sound like some really cool features, and they are. However, from my experience, these icing features just don't work as seamlessly as they should, and they don't work for two primary reasons. The first reason is that this screen doesn't have a native connection to the internet like your car does. So in order to access any of the streaming services, browser features, or the App Store, you have to connect it to your phone via Tether. While connecting your phone is technically possible, and it's actually relatively straightforward to do, I will admit that it isn't as reliable as I would like it to be. The second main reason why these screens just don't work seamlessly is that the screen simply lacks the horsepower to really drive a good Android tablet experience. Now, don't get me wrong, the hardware is clearly good enough to run the core features, the cake features as I'm calling them. I think it's just a little underperforming for those icing features. Like I said before, this screen is really good at duplicating the core rear screen features like climate controls and the media controls. And it also does an okay job with all of the other extra things that it can do that the refreshed Tesla Model 3 screen doesn't even attempt to do. Overall, this is the best rear screen I've tested yet. So at this point, if you're still interested in this video, you might be wondering, what does it take to install that screen? Well, let me show you, because it's really pretty easy to do. Here's what you get inside the box. We have the screen itself right here, which is very similar to screens that we've seen in the past. They all seem to be kind of similar, but the connections in the back tend to be different. And what sets this apart from other screens that I've reviewed in the past is that the air actually can come in through the top and the bottom of the screen, which has been one of the primary complaints of replacing the rear airflow with a screen like this. This also comes with two different wiring harnesses, and the reason why there are two is because some of the newer Model 3s and Model Ys don't come with an auxiliary hookup in the rear console, and you have to route everything up to the front, and that's what this longer cable is for. I happen to have two older cars that have this, so this tutorial will show you basically how it's like to install this in an older car. There are separate instructions they send to route it up to the front. It's a little more time consuming to get the cables up there, but you can get the job done. They also give you a pry tool as well as the ability to jump route the USB connections, which we've seen in the past. And they just give you a USB-C to USB-A adapter because the back only has USB-C, and if you want USB-A, they give you that particular option. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing installed, and it's actually pretty straightforward. This is actually my fourth screen that I've installed in this car, and they all go in about the same. The first step is to remove this rear vent, and it just simply pulls off. Just like that. And there is a USB connection that powers the USB in the back that you just have to unclip, and you can just leave this dangle. And we don't need this anymore. We can set it aside. Now, this particular screen actually uses a dedicated cable to power the USB from down below, but in order to get the car to think that the USB is here, you need to use this little adapter plug that will plug in here to basically jumper out the USB and fool the car into thinking that it's hooked up to something. Next step in the process is we want to remove this cover here, and it's just held in with some clips, and use the pry tool that they gave you and put this in here and do the best you can to pry it off. Just like that. And that will expose this blue plug, which is what we're getting at. The next thing we need to do is we need to deal with these cables. Now, this cable here is where we patch into that blue connector. You unplug the car, you patch in one side to the plug, the other side to the receptacle, and this is what goes up to the screen itself. Now, there are a couple other cables here that are quite long, and these go up to the doors to allow us to do some door control, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, all we need to do is route this main side of the cable right here up through the bottom and then plug in the blue connector. Let's go ahead and patch in the plug, and you don't really need to unhook the car. You might get an alert when this gets unplugged, but we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and then start by inserting this side in. And then we need to finagle this cable in order to hook in the other side as a patch, just like that. And then ultimately we're going to have to tuck all of this up in here and get it working. But for now, let's get the screen hooked up. And then we will make sure that our cables are routed down and underneath. It's a bit of a snug fit. Just make sure everything is lined up. And you can push them into the clips. And we are good to go. Now that the screen is installed, there are some functions of this screen that allow it to control the passenger and driver side seats, and that's what these extra cables are for. One is labeled passenger side and one is labeled driver side, and this is another patch cord, and in order to install these, we're going to have to route these under the seat and over to the outside edges of the seat. And let me show you how they go together, and it's really not that bad once you figure out how to get to it. Okay, here's our front seat, and we need to get to a control box right in here. And the easiest way to do that is just to grab onto this area right here and peel back. And we will get to a connector that's right there. That's what we need to get. So route the cable from the screen underneath your seat and then up through a cavity in the seat. Just find a spot to route it and get it up to this location. Okay, here we have it routed, and really all we need to do is we need to disconnect this cable here and patch it in. Once you have the patch, just line up the patch in with the cable. Make sure that's plugged in just like that. And then in order to get this back together, there is a little groove, or there's a slot down in there that you want to make sure you line this clip to. Just like that, it's all wired in. Make sure that it still works manually as it should. If it doesn't, then you don't have the plug in correctly. So now that we've got the driver's side done, all we have to do is the passenger side. The process is exactly the same. Let's just get that done real quick by peeling the side over, routing the cable, plugging it in, and then we should be done. All right, there you have it. A rear screen from Hansho that does a good job in duplicating the rear screen functionality in the newly refreshed Model 3 and then some. Now, if you think this screen is right for you, you can follow the link in the description below to swing over and pick up a new screen of your own. And if you do, make sure you use the checkout code IowaTeslaGuy to save you upwards of 20% on your order. Finally, if you don't want to wait around for the new refreshed Model 3 to come out and you're looking to buy a Tesla of your own, make sure you use a referral link to save money on your order. You can use any referral link you want, but if you want to use the one below, that would be great. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.